At whatoplay, we always talk about games to play. But what about the bad games to avoid? Whether they're broken games, they have misleading marketing, or they were simply not your cup of tea. Here are the games our community said are the worst games they have ever played. By the way, everyone's opinion is welcome here. You like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. Still, let's be civil in the comments, okay?
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
Let's start with No Man's Sky. Bulbay02 and Nathan Moore had this exchange in the comments.
For me, it has to be No Man's Sky. It was a sham and a scam. They were in no position to ever make a game like they promised, so they scammed gamers for funds to hire real skilled developers to make the game close to what they promised. But even today, years after, it's not even close. And the worst about this is, some people think it's okay. I hear you, hey, but I think they've redeemed themselves. They've really updated their game and come out with lots of free updates. One of the only developers I've seen do this. Don't get me wrong, I agree it was terrible on launch and it was definitely not okay. Not trying to start a fight or anything, genuinely curious why you still don't like it now. Nathan Moore, I just can't. It's like killing a family and taking the house, then allocating a single room for the survivors to stay. My main point was the start was so wrong, so I can't see any worth and value whatever comes after it. Bulbay02, fair enough.
I really do agree that it's bad practice to overpromise and underdeliver, especially for something paid. No Man's Sky gets a few points back for the free updates and the quality of life improvements in the game. But does that give the developers a free pass for selling an underdeveloped game upon release? I'm leaning towards no, but that doesn't mean that I'll never play the game. It's coming out on the Switch and I'm hoping that it gets ported well. It's probably best to wait for the reviews before buying though. Trust is hard to gain back. Casey Bitong wrote one of the funniest and also saddest comments I've read in a while.
For the people that think No Man's Sky, Battlefield 2042, or Fallout 76 is the worst game of all time, I'm just gonna say, Disney Story Studio Mulan on PS1. At the age of 7, I thought I was getting a combat sword game like Zelda, but it ended with me picking out a dress for Mulan. I have never been more disappointed in my life.
I am so sorry, my dude. Movie tie-in games are rarely good. But there are some good gems out there. What comes to mind for me is 102 Dalmatians on the PS2. I had so many fond memories of that game as a kid. I just don't know how it would hold up these days though. Soljin says,
Okay, so I own a PS Vita, and back in the day, there were a few bad eggs in the basket. I could throw COD Declassified, Resistance Burning Sky, or even Ridge Racer as bad games. COD DC and RBS just need polishing and more content, and RRV just had poor business practices. But hands down, the worst, and I mean worst video game I ever played would have to be Tokyo Tattoo Girls. It's Risk, but with the Kuza waifus. The critics would say Drive Girls is the worst video game ever, but TTG is the worst video game ever made, period. It's mind-numbingly boring, and it's stressful in the sense that you need to do a perfect run in an RNG-heavy TRPG that you can finish in 50 minutes to even get an ending where you don't lose, but it's the longest 50 minutes of your life. And because you just have 1980s video game levels of broken English, the sound is literally non-existent either. And you hear the same drone of drums throughout you during your playthrough. But even though it's the worst game ever made, I'd still sit down and play that than deal with NFTs.
okay. Urban Shadow 777 says,
Well, it's not Cyberpunk. Started playing the PS5 version after the patch, and it's not too bad. It still has a few small issues, but it's playable and enjoyable. Right now, Forza Horizon 5 on Xbox One is the game I am having most trouble with. Every time I try to do anything online, open, playground games, eliminator, etc., it fails to load me into the game, kicks me back to the map, and soft locks me in a cinematic camera mode where all the buttons are disabled. It took me more than 4 hours just to complete only one event on Forza's seasonal playlist. Once GT7 comes out on PS5, I think I'll move to that for my driving fix, to be honest.
I have not played Forza Horizon 5 myself yet, but one thing I can relate to as a gamer from a third world country with infamously bad internet is getting kicked out of online play. Especially when that game doesn't have a good enough server for us. Nothing sucks more than losing because of lag. Alex B has a great point.
There are two types of bad games, badly developed and deceiving ones. In the first category, a lot is not necessarily bad. The second one's personal, and sometimes you hate them but you finish them anyway. So I can give you some games I can't play because of me. Final Fantasy VII, Half-Life 2, Quake 4, and all of the Resident Evil games. I tried many times, I really can't. Anyway, lastly, okay, got me, I'll tell you, Pokemon Arceus.
There are really some games out there that no matter how many good game reviews they get, they really are just not the game for you. Me, for example, that would be Little Nightmares on the Nintendo Switch. That game made me rage quit. Cool premise, great art style, amazing sound design, but it was hard for me to play because I kept falling. It was honestly my fault, but it made the game lose its atmosphere because all of the enemies' movements were predetermined. All you needed to do was memorize their movement pattern and you'd be good to go. And with how many times I took the wrong step, fell, and died, I memorized it pretty quick. Also, loading times between levels and deaths were quite long for my liking. Yeah, so it became more frustrating than fun. Okay, hold on to your loins because another example, and this one from the comments, is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Why I think RDR2 is the worst game of all time. The frustratingly linear level design in main missions. I mean, I don't expect video games in general to have the best side missions, but at least main missions should be interesting. There are so many main missions where if you try to get a little bit creative or go 1 inch in the opposite direction of the main objective, the game will show you a mission failed screen. In a mission where you have to rescue Rainfall's chief's son, the game literally tells you who to take out. It's a frustratingly linear stealth mission. Had it been any other game, the game would have asked you to rescue the Rainfall son according to your creativity and intelligence. No, but this is a game made for children where the game holds your hand. If you're having fun Rockstar's way, it's okay, but don't you dare try to be a little creative. Want to take a shorter path? Nope, can't do it. Must follow the yellow line. GTA 3 that came out like 10 years ago permits more creative and open level design, but RDR2 fanboys like it because they like to be told what to do and how to do it. No strategy or planning involved in the execution of the main mission. For me, RDR2 was one of the best games ever made, but as you can see, people always have different minds, so that's okay.
I know! Yes, this was literally our Xbox One Game of the Year from 2018 and had so many great game reviews from critics and gamers, but it still couldn't please everyone. More because in the main missions of the game, you really can't diverge from the path the game sets for you. Alright, here are all the other games our community didn't like. If you'd like your opinion heard in our next Community Picks video, head on over to our community tab and tell us about the game you'd recommend to first-time gamers. It's been Rain, see you next time.